taste.
And we're rolling.
Expensive taste. All right. Go ahead, Charles.
No. I won't let you do the intro because it's a special BGG edition.
Welcome to Eternally Bored. The conventional episode is how I cleverly have titled this.
Excellent.
Very clever right there.
Yeah. So,
you should patent that. So
it actually is a good pun because we normally talk about like a serious issue for like a while, and then we talk about games. We're mostly going to talk about a not serious issue, which is going to a convention, and then we're going to talk about games. So
many games.
This is going to be more like a traditional podcast, so let's just jump into it because we got a lot to cover. I'm your host, Trey Chambers.
And I'm Charles Washington, your host as well and co-host. And we're with our frequent guest and contributor.
Yeah, I'm Ben, most critical gamer, so it's my tagline, trying it out, see how it works.
And we also have our producer, Ian Failing.
The guy behind the scene, except when he's in front of the scene.
Yes. Increasingly becoming more in front of the scene. All right. So let's just jump in. So we're discussing our recent trip to BGG.con, and actually, I think we're going to post these episodes out of order because I want to upload this so that we're not uploading this in February because we've already recorded other episodes. Before we get into it, though, I do want to give a shout-out. I ran into 2 listeners at the con. So there's at least 2 people that listen to this podcast.
Yes.
So
3, because I also listen to.
Yeah. I caught one of their names, Mike Arms, so... Hi, Mike. It was great meeting you. And the other guy was like, he just told me as I was leaving, we had just played a whole game together. He didn't mention anything. As I was leaving the game we played together, he was just like, oh yeah, I listened to your podcast. It was great meeting you. I'm like, oh, great. So I didn't catch his name, but he's a cool guy too. So thanks. All right. So I have 3 things I wanted to discuss real quick before we get to the games. How did BGG differ from other cons you've gone to? Charles.
BGG is a lame con. Unless you enjoy playing games, in which case it is a great con.
That is an accurate statement.
So that's the main difference. If people are going to BGG for the first time, just know that there's not going to be anything to do outside of playing a whole bunch of new and interesting games and, dealing with and finding out a bunch of new games that are being released soon and some that are currently on Kickstarter. It is sort of a retailer's con because it has the hottest Essen releases. And they do try a few after-hours activities, most of which are the best ones get canceled. So, there you go.
All right, Ben.
Oh, man, I just feel like so much hatred over here for the con, but I mean, I think the best part about it is playing the games. We'll talk about that later. I haven't gone to that many cons. I've been to BGG.con a couple times, and I've gone to a local con, Nameless Con. That's a sort of invitation only. But I thought, it was... I haven't gotten that one either.
God.
Oh, good.
And as far as cons with actual game companies and designers, I mean, yeah, BGG.con is, in my mind, unique for that. I mean, granted, I guess all the other ones have that too, but I think it's a great con.
Ian?
It's good for what it is, but this was a funny experience I had when people were trying to convince me to go to it for the first time. And I was like, well, what's it like? What do you do there? And they're like, board games. And I kept asking more questions, and the answer was just board games, board games, board games. So someone who's gone to any other kind of con, like an entertainment or a fan con, like I've been to Otakon like 8 times, and at the local Houston anime convention, and there's like all kinds of things to do, and panels and things to watch, audio, video, interactive stuff. Like, when is the dance, when is the rave, like, what do they do late at night? Whereas this con is like, there's a room full of board games and a bunch of tables.
Oh, and don't forget 25 floors of board games as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. So it's almost more like a work convention than a fan convention because, like, you're just there to go and play board games, although it's not work, obviously.
Yeah, it also saw a decrease in, like, board game celebrities or media and publisher presence because this year only it was at the same exact time as PAX Unplugged, which was the inaugural year of PAX Unplugged, but PAX Unplugged is moving to the beginning of November or the beginning of December, I don't know, but it's not going to be on the same weekend anymore, so hopefully this is a one-time occurrence, although publishers might be so fatigued that they might not go to both, but we'll see how it works out next year. There are some events that are actually quite popular. There's the Puzzle Hunt, which is, I've done it before, it's a lot of fun. There's the Poker Tournament, which I've also done, it's a lot of fun. There's a Teach You Tournament. Yeah. Dear God, why do people want to play that game at a con that they can play
awesome.
anytime at home?
Both in the Teach You Tournament.
Yeah.
But
it's fun, but incredibly random. I mean.
If you enjoy Teach You, then sure. So there are some events at BGG.con, but I do overall agree with Charles it's a gaming con in the truest sense. You go there, you play games, you play the new Essen releases, which is, I guess, the one thing that it has besides just open gaming, because it's mainly just open gaming.
Oh, I was also in with the inaugural Crocodile tournament that Mayday is
Yeah.
sponsoring this year. So.
Yeah, and they have all the Crocodile and all the dexterity games in an area. So I mean, there are definitely some things about BGG cons that you don't find in other cons, but I definitely think the main thing it has going for it is open gaming. It has. I've been to, let's see, Gen Con. I've been to Origins. I've been to PAX South. I've been to Protospiel. And I think that's it as far, and Comic Palooza, which is getting it's a comic convention in Houston that's getting a pretty big board game scene. But what I think BGG has over all these other cons is just all the open gaming. They have so much gaming space, and even without open gaming, sometimes it's hard to find a table. But I mean, you go to like Gen Con, and their quote unquote open gaming room is like one small little ballroom for 40,000 people to play games. Like, it's ridiculous. So
It's crazy.
I feel like what it lacks in breadth, it makes up for in depth, but that's hindered by sometimes not even being able to get the game that you're trying to go get, because one of my complaints about the con was that the whole way it's set up and the logistics of getting tickets and hotel tickets has gotten crazy, and the price has gotten pretty crazy, which are two sides of the same coin. I hear someone told me that they're going to move to a place that has more capacity, and maybe that'll solve both of those problems. But I was hoping for all the increase in price that you would have seen like more games in the library, because there were a couple of games that my friends and I went to try to find and repeatedly couldn't see in the library. But
I will say, even though the library had some problems, it's still the best library that I've seen. Like, I don't.
Yep.
I haven't been to PAX Unplugged, obviously, but I mean, I've seen the Cavs library at Origins, and the Gen Con library. We don't need to talk about Gen Con library. So the BGG.con library is actually really, really impressive and really good.
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead.
I mean, it's huge, and I think sort of the problem that Ian is talking about, I think that comes if you're looking for specific games. If you're like, I really want to play this one specific game, then you might go, especially if it's in the hotness, and not find it, you know, even if you keep going back. But I think if you sort of have the attitude that I do, which is, you know, I'll just play whatever else is new, you'll find something, because everyone's playing everything, so.
Yeah.
Now, personally, I like to buy my games at conventions, so Gen Con is right up my alley. The Wizard World I've been to is right up my alley. Everything I want to have and want to play with is there to purchase. And I'm a big, you know, I came into this industry and other industries from the retail perspective, I started in the retail perspective of cons, and every con since I've sort of viewed through that lens. And you know, there's a good amount of stuff to buy at BGG Con, and it is exclusive. And since it's either go to BGG Con or go to Germany. It's much cheaper, so I do like it for that reason. So what's your least favorite thing about the con? I think, Ian, you covered a bit.
Was that your least favorite thing?
oh yeah, I mentioned it.
Yeah.
Okay.
My least favorite thing was that they stopped renting carts out. Not renting. They used to just give you carts to help you unload your car, which is very important for BGG.con because they also have flea markets there. They have the math trade there. And obviously just for your luggage. They took away the carts this year. The only way you could get a cart was by going to the concierge and being like, hey, I need a cart. And then they had to get the cart and accompany you. And then, of course, you would have to tip them instead of just letting you take a cart at your leisure and do whatever you needed to do with it and then return it back. I don't know what the heck was going on with that policy, but it was terrible.
People didn't return them back.
Well,
so they took the privilege away.
So some people screwed up,
people.
and we all got punished for it.
Yes.
And I probably have a hernia now from carrying boxes of board games up and down the stairs because the garage also does not have an elevator. So I'm really glad to be rid of this hotel. Like, I mean, I'll still go to BGG Spring, which is great, and I have this kinship with this hotel, even though it has a lot of problems, but I've been there so many years, so I'm glad I'm still going to be able to go there for BGG Spring, but I'm so ready to move to the bigger convention space in 2019 for BGG. But we have one more year of dealing with all of this nonsense. Ben?
I mean, it's weird, because I kind of feel like a small fish for saying this, but I think sometimes the number of people at BGG.con, even though, from my understanding, it's less than other conventions, is just too overwhelming. It's just like, sometimes there's just so many people in the room, and when you're playing games over and over again, you're just like, I can't do any more of this. And it's hard for me to say, because I could still play games like for days straight and never stop.
Well, but one of the great things BGG does offer is many different rooms to play in. Like,
That's true.
if you get tired of the ballroom, and the ballroom is very loud and chaotic.
Yeah.
I actually did most of my gaming this year and last year in those private rooms. Like, every floor has a small room to game in, and then there's tons of rooms on the 11th floor you can game in, and there's also scattered small rooms throughout the con. So it's pretty easy to find a place to play, which is great and necessary.
That's true. The other thing that kind of makes me sad is even though there aren't actually that many events, you still sort of have to choose to do the events to the exclusion of playing more games. So I feel like there were more events that I wanted to do while I was there, but I didn't do them because I was too busy playing all the new games.
No. Well,
You know.
there's no way around that problem, though.
No, I just want more time.
Yeah.
Why
Can I
can't
have
this
more
con
time?
give me more time? Where's my time turner, BGG.con?
Yeah. And for me, it's just location. But this has been documented everywhere about BGG.con.
You talking about the hotel or that it's in Dallas?
Or that's in the airport.
In the airport, the tolls, the hotel,
You don't have to pay the tolls.
exactly, you don't, but you have to stop there.
Oh,
The 5 minutes of availability when they become available. And
Oh,
then the
yeah.
rising ticket prices for, but, like you said. it's
2019, hopefully,
2019,
a lot of these problems will go away. There'll be a whole new set of problems that we can complain about. All right, what was your favorite thing about the con, Ian?
The board games.
The board games.
Most assuredly.
Dilly. All right.
As much as I was complaining about the library, the very concept of the library and the way it was executed was rather smooth. Like, I'm complaining that I can't find every game that I want, what I want, but it really was a really neat system, and it was well executed by the volunteers. They did a really good job doing it. I never saw anyone or had a problem myself, so being able to play all the new stuff, maybe even having new stuff to play, I guess is good, even though it's not always available when you want it. But it was just pretty well executed.
Very cool. My favorite thing is the people. I have friends that I see there, and because I've been going there for like 9 years now, so I see those people and I get to game with them, and it's a lot of fun. And I really like, I'm the opposite of Charles. I don't care about buying games at a con, and I don't even really care about demoing games. I do care about playing new games, but BGG has no shortage of that. I played over 10 new games, and I had a lot of fun doing it, so that was great. So I actually love the open gaming format, and I hate going to Gen Con, but I kind of like have to because it's just part of the business. If you're in the business, you kind of have to go to Gen Con, but to me, I don't care about buying games. I just want to play games and hang out for 3 days straight.
Yeah, Trey. Sometimes I feel like your life is too difficult. You just have to go to the North American biggest board game convention.
Yeah.
I think I feel really lucky that I don't have to do something that would be super fun to do. That's,
Yeah, don't forget the industry parties. I mean.
Oh yeah, I mean I can't even imagine what that's like to be on the
and
inside.
he actually gets his board games published there, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah,
I go to Gen Con and I
sure.
work. I don't go to Gen Con and play games. I go to Gen Con and I work.
Yeah, we're
I
playing games.
I have gone to Gen Con and I've played 2 games, and one was a filler. So like, I've spent 3 days basically just working the booth and networking and talking to people and
Look,
going
Trey,
to meetings.
we're not gonna feel sorry for you. That's just not
Look,
gonna happen.
okay, that's fine. You don't have to feel sorry for me, but at BGG.con I can relax and just play games, and that is wonderful.
Man, if only your job gave you like 2 months off in the middle of the summer.
Of course, I can't. I do feel sorry for that. 'cause
Are we
I've been
done?
teachers.
Are we done?
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's my favorite thing. Teacher tournament, super awesome. I don't care what Trey says. Teacher's a great game. I can play it for hours. Charles is a great partner. I'm sorry, I was bad. Other thing that was great, the flea market. Because I don't want to pay retail for games, but the flea market is a great way to get games that are hard to find and at great prices. I got some awesome deals. I found Stone Age for like $35, which is crazy because that game is super out of print. And I mean, I don't even know what else. I got this, I can't remember what else. So many awesome games, so the flea market.
Yeah, it's also a great way to get rid of games. I have a rule, I don't go over this shelf, so if it doesn't fit on the shelf, I have to sell it. So it's a great way to cull your collection.
Okay, but could you explain, what does it mean to get rid of games? I'm not familiar with this term.
Says the man who's you bought 2 bookcases since you moved to your new house, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
a couple, 2 or 3.
4.
Who's counting? Not me.
All right, so
What was your favorite thing? Did you ever say it?
I did say it.
What was it?
It's the exclusive games that are available.
Oh yeah.
Games.
And you said it in your.
It is the
response as
first
well.
place to get to play Essen releases, basically, which is another boon of the con. That's something that Gen Con doesn't have because it takes place before Essen.
And you can purchase them. I mean, Gen Con has the majority of the North American releases, and this one has the majority of the European releases and the international releases. So
and European releases are better than North American releases. I think we can agree.
Some of them, but those Japanese releases are pretty good too. But we never go to those. We only read about those kinds. All right, so you want to go into the top three, the games?
No, let's do the worst.
You want to go to the worst?
Worst to best.
All right.
So bottom three worst games.
Bottom three.
Ian, you want to start us off? You're number 3.
I only played 2 games that I really felt badly about.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess it'll go to me. So my 3 is Photosynthesis. I don't understand
What is the hype for this game?
the hype for this game. Could someone please explain to me? You can send me an email, eternallybored@gmail.com. I don't understand it. This game is getting all the rage. Even Tom Vassell was enamored with it, and I usually sync up fairly well with his taste, and I'm just like, what did he see in this game? It is one of the most boring games I've ever played. And it has a ton of upkeep. Like, imagine playing Dominant Species, but you're playing like a 30-minute version of Dominant Species, but it still has just as much upkeep. I don't understand. I don't know why people like it. It would work as an app, maybe, because the app would do all the upkeep for you. But like, I don't understand this game.
This one with the 3 types of the trees and stuff.
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
And it has no replayability. There's no like variance between game. Every game is exactly the same. There's no replayability. There's a ton of upkeep.
No, the players.
There's nothing exciting about this
The
game.
replayability
No, I
is
see.
where the players put their trees.
Oh god.
Okay, so here's what I don't think you realize. It's like, you know how some people for fun they like plant a tree and then they watch that tree grow? You know how that's a thing that people do for fun? That's the whole idea.
Oh
you know,
my
because people
God.
love watching trees grow, but slower than that.
This
Like,
is
you know how
why-
slow it takes trees to grow? This is also slower.
This is my number 1 least favorite game of the con because I just felt so disappointed by it because I am a sucker for a novel system or something like that, and it's a nice system. It would be good on like the corner 6th of a board, like as part of another game, but the rest of the game's just not there. So it's like a Euro engine with like nothing on the end of it. So
It's real boring.
It's not technically a bad game mechanically, which is why it's only my number 3 worst.
You know,
It's my number 1 worst.
I've seen this happen before where they flesh out a good mechanic in a game, but they try to make it the complete game, and it just falls through. Usually it's done a little bit more successfully. About 2 or 3 years ago, Rattlebones came out at BGG.con,
Rattlebones.
and it had like the dice system, and it was very unique and novel, and there wasn't much to the game, but putting together the dice itself was just fun. And I feel like Photosynthesis is just a mechanic that sort of got fleshed out into a game for growing trees. But it is really like watching a tree grow. So in its thematic overview, it is very accurate. You do feel like at many points of the tree during the game that you're watching someone else grow a tree over years.
Are we having fun yet? All right.
Years and years.
Ben, your number 3?
My number 3 is a game called Fortress. It's a Friedman Freese game. It's part of his Quick Start series. So the idea of this game is like you don't have to read the rules. It's a deck of cards. You read the top card of it, and then as you sort of play the game,
Fast forward is the answer.
Fast forward. What is it? Can I say that?
No.
Okay. So the problem with that is, first of all, the deck is in a very specific order. So who will win depends on where you're sitting, right? Because who starts will draw
Yeah.
different cards.
Yeah.
And the mechanism of the game is like, draw a card. Well, that's what you do on like 40%, like 60% of your turns is draw a card from the deck.
Mm-hmm.
Or you'll like, oh, okay, I'm gonna put some cards down, and we'll see if this is higher than what you have. And if it is, I get this thing that you have, and if it's not, I lose these cards. And then it's just like, what am I doing here? It's just boring and sad. And
Bad mechanically, sounds like. Charles.
yeah.
So I played Custom Heroes by John D. Clare,
Oh, I wanted to try that.
which is from the guy who is the designer of Mystic Vale. So he's using another card crafting system again. However, the great card crafting system is surrounded by a game that is basically Uno. You are trying to get rid of your cards first. And to do so, you power up other cards to get rid of them faster. And each round you have the standard sort of Uno scoring system of who goes out first scores more points than the person who goes out last. But it's a little graduated. But I don't know. It's an hour and a half of Uno, and it's a little more complicated than Uno. but it's an hour and a half of Uno.
That sounds terrible.
I'll have to say that is...
How is that only your number 3? What other terrible games did Charles play?
Oh, sorry. That might be... I thought we were starting at the top. But yes, this was probably my number 1. I'm sorry about that.
Well, we're in the whole system.
But, you know,
all I can say is, Uno, you didn't.
Yeah.
Alright, your number 2 worst
make that
game,
fun.
Ian.
I forgot to look up the name. It was like Tesla versus Edison, a 2-player game.
Oh, Duel, yeah.
Duel, yeah. I don't know. We don't play a lot of 2-player games in our group, so I don't have a lot of experience around 2-player games. But I haven't been really impressed by the ones that I have played, probably because I haven't been exposed to a whole lot of them. But this one didn't feel like a whole lot of fun. It was like a 2-player kind of area control game amongst 3 areas. It was basically one of the basic mechanics of it, and it's just kind of a grind and a slog when there's low variability for having such a low player count. I felt like it would have made a better non-2-player game, based for a non-2-player game, but with 2 players as an area control base mechanic, it's just painful grind, and it just felt weird. Some of the systems felt tacked on, or like
I gotta say, I'm really shocked to hear you say that.
Right.
Well, believe it or not, I was introduced to the Tesla versus Edison, the original game, along with, I believe, the New Scientist as well. This was one of our good friends named Jeremy, who went to the con with us. And believe it or not, I've been introduced to a number of games with cute designers. You can see the look on Trey's face now, so you can imagine from then on how we got into this.
I have not played Tesla vs. Edison Duel.
Me neither.
But it was designed by my friend, so I will say try it out. But
Okay.
I'll encourage you to play it. I don't know if it's good. Apparently Ian doesn't like it. So
The thing is,
I
I
haven't played it.
hate anything near area control, so I could probably never like that game.
Oh, okay.
Even if it was...
So maybe it's a taste thing. I don't
Have
know.
to see for yourself.
Yeah. Try it out. Alright. I play, my number 2 is Majesty, some dumb subtitle. And that's literally what I wrote here, because filler games should not have subtitles. I'm looking at you, Century, The Spice Road. Like, why couldn't you just name your game Century? I don't understand. It's like a 10-minute filler game, you know, and this Majesty game is also supposed to be like 15, 30-minute filler, and it has a subtitle. We don't need that. Call your game Majesty and call it a day. But also, it was a terrible game. And here's why.
He's going English teacher all over it.
So, you can... In that game, you can attack other players, but you have to draft the cards to attack. You can defend these attacks if you draft the defense cards. But everybody in my game was so worried about being attacked that they would always draft the guard cards as soon as they came out. So
You never got them.
I was in the unlucky position of never being able to draft a guard card. But guess what happens when someone attacks and you don't have guards? They kill your tableau. So I was constantly getting attacked by the attack cards that killed my entire tableau, and I had no defense and no way to defend it. So... screw this game, it has a bad mechanic, and I did not enjoy my play of it.
I was in the game with Trey as well, and it was terrible. These attacks are very bad. The person who won ended up being the guy who was able to top deck the most defense cards right after Trey.
Yeah.
And he got some other stuff too, but you know, I was getting the defense cards, the person to our left, Jay, was getting attacks, Trey was getting hosed, and then this guy would get another defense card off the top of the deck, and he kept on building him up and ended the game with the most. So,
I don't even think I did an attack. It was like every time an attack or a defense card came out, people would spend whatever resources they had to get it. It was crazy. Anyway, sorry, Ben.
Okay, so I just want to build on that, because you said filler games shouldn't have subtitles. So while you were saying that, I was thinking, what would be some good subtitles for filler games? So here are the ones I have so far. For Sale, the real estate bidding game. And No Thanks, the game of refusing politely.
Thanks for that, Ben.
And teach you how to make friends and lose people.
I wouldn't call it a filler, but sure. Alright, my number 2, just want to add that. My number 2 is a Pressman game, so you know it's going to be good. It's Where is the World's Carmen Sandiego? So they took the old 90s computer game and made it into essentially a memory game with dice. So you roll dice, and that lets you look at cards, and then eventually you get to match cards together. The problem with the game, other than the fact that it's stupid, is that it is also essentially broken, because the way the game ends has nothing to do with the rest of the game. You have to find Carmen Sandiego and pair her to a location and a weapon or some crap like that. But you can only do that when she's in the middle, but the opponent can always pull cards out of the middle. So you have to essentially do 3 actions before your opponent does one thing, and it just makes no sense. The whole game is entirely nonsensical.
Alright, Charles?
Oh no, my number 2 is Majesty.
Oh,
Definitely.
All right.
I'm chimed in just because
we're apparently having a lot of agreement on our least favorite games.
Yes.
We'll see when we get to the most favorite. Ian, your number 1 was Photosynthesis? Is that
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. My least favorite was a game called Little Devils. So
It has been out before though.
Yeah.
I know it was not a new game, but so I went to this con and honestly I didn't play any great games except for one, my number 1 that I'll talk about in a minute. But I didn't play really any bad games. Like Photosynthesis is super boring, but I wouldn't say it's a bad game. Majesty it's kind of a bad game, but the mechanics are solid. It's just a bad implementation of card drafting. But Little Devil is just a bad game like that, and we also played it at a bad player count, so I might like it at a larger player count. But that game was just
How many people did you play with?
3.
Oh, you
Oh,
really
yeah.
shouldn't.
It's
Cannot,
a six-player
it's a six-player
drinking game.
Okay, well then they shouldn't have put 3 players on the box. So
Okay, yeah,
we were
but-
playing by an allowed player count that's on the box. So I feel like that's a legitimate complaint.
That's like playing
It
3
shouldn't
players.
even have 3 on there then.
Yeah, 3 players 6 and then
Yeah.
doesn't work.
Yeah,
it was terrible, and yeah. So it might be a better game with more people, but I thought it was completely dumb, and we abandoned it after 1 round.
Yeah, well, I've played before. It's pretty luck heavy anyway, but I think it's definitely better with higher player count.
Yeah.
So my number 1's a tie. Photosynthesis, we've already mentioned, tied with Indian Summer, because I pair those games as exactly the same. They're both games where you do some stuff and you don't know why you're doing it, and it just seems like your life is pointless while you're doing it. So
Sounds like our presidency. Anyways, continue.
oh, too soon. So what can I add about Indian Summer? I don't know. You're trying to cover up a board with tiles, and there's squirrels and circles in the board, and who cares?
Admittedly-
I can't even care enough to describe the game.
If I remember correctly, are you not dimensionally challenged by most games? Does
Okay,
not,
yes.
Does not,
Special games-
does not Carcassonne get to you?
No, the Carcassonne's not hard. No, granted, spatial games aren't great for me, but that's not the problem I have with the game. The problem with the game is it's boring, it's not fun, and there's 2 ways of saying the same thing, but I had to emphasize it twice. So that's the problem.
All right, Charles.
This is actually a game we all played together. It was called Noria,
Where are you?
which was a...
That was your least favorite of the con?
No. It was my number 3.
Oh, your number 3.
It was number 3.
Okay.
But it's always so interesting because we all played it. It's sort of somewhere in the middle. It's an airship game designed by Sophia Wagner, and it looks very interesting. It basically has 3 gears that you start with, and everyone's gear or gears are unique, but you can customize them using actions in the game. And throughout the game, you're using these gears in order to do actions that either produce goods or to ultimately place on a cult track, basically. So 4 different tracks that you're trying to raise up, and the higher you get up each cult track, the more points you will potentially score on a multiplier. However, people can attack your base multiplier as one of their actions. So you might go very high, but groupthink might suddenly decide that, oh, even though I'm up this track, the multiplier is only going to be 1. Whereas someone who didn't get attacked because they were all attacking me, they didn't go as high, but their multiplier is 6. So I have 9 steps on the cult track, and I get 9 points, and they went 6, but they didn't get attacked, so they're getting 36 because there's multipliers at 6, which was my main problem with the game. These type of games where you're putting a lot of effort to score points and build an engine of some kind that people can see coming, you cannot just arbitrarily take their score away through groupthink. So it's basically like you're playing a collective Kingmaker game, and I despise that. Despite all the pretty trappings, the art design, the system, and everything else, that Kingmaker element was extremely annoying to me. And it had a lot of good things that were going on in the game itself, the manipulation of the gears, the ability to sort of move things to different gears in order to time it to a correct moment to make a nice combo was all great. But the Kingmaker at the end sort of ruined it for me.
I mean, I didn't hate Noria, and I was the person who got King made, so maybe that's part of it. But I also think it has that same problem that Charles was talking about, which is that you have to rely on other people to help you, and so if those people choose to do things that are helpful to you, you'll do better, and if they don't, then you'll lose. So I would never play it again.
I was waiting for
Most
it.
negative gamer. Okay. I will counterpoint. I really enjoyed Noria. However, I did not purchase it and probably won't purchase it just because my main problem was that I don't feel like the game has replayability. Like, there's not there's nothing that will change from game to game except your opponents, and which is in every game, and how you're going to customize your wheel, which may or may not change. Like, if you find a wheel that you like, you're going to build that wheel probably every game. Or, I mean, you'll probably have to adapt to your opponents a little bit, but I just don't feel like the game has any replayability built into the system. But the central mechanic was super engaging, and I thought it was awesome, and I had a lot of fun, even though I lost terribly. I had a lot of fun customizing my wheel. So, like, if you play a game and you lose terribly, but you still had fun, I would say that's at least a decent game. But for me, the only reason it's not a purchase is I don't think it has the replayability to...
Also, I'm pretty sure no one else will play it with you.
Well, and that, apparently my group hates it, so it's fine.
It was explained to me, and one of the players that we were about to start playing with noped out at the end of the rules explanation and was like, nope, I can't do this. Yeah. So we didn't get a chance to play it. But I'm a sucker for new systems, so I probably like that wheel, but I thought the complaints that you had about how people could prevent you from winning made a lot of sense to me. Although there are a lot of games that have that gimmick in there.
Yeah. The game built around the wheel is not as fascinating as the wheel itself.
I don't know. I think the wheel
is
just Chrome. I mean, I don't think it's actually anything special. You're just choosing between 3 and 4 actions each time.
No, but it's essentially a 3-tiered customizable rondel, personal rondel, which no game has anything like that.
Yeah, but it's also not that interesting.
I thought it was awesome.
Well, you're wrong, but it's okay.
Well, okay, but I'm not. All right, let's do our best. We'll start with Charles. We'll go the other way. Charles, your third best game.
My third best game. So I actually bought all of my favorite games. So I'm just going to list the games that I bought. And my third best game is Terraforming Mars Venus Next.
Of course.
Expansion. So
no one here is surprised. Actually, I'm surprised that it's that low.
Higher, yeah.
Technically not a game, an expansion, but okay.
Technically it's an expansion. It sort of diffuses the system. The reason it is low because I'm not quite sure if the overall diffusion of the cards is going to equal out to what it needs to do.
I've read about
and you know,
like it's hard enough to get space tags in the first place, but now you just can't.
Yeah.
Do we need another tag in the deck, really?
Yeah, do we need another tag? Do we need another microbes in the deck? The corporations that they added are very good. It's something I would not play without, but mainly because I've played with the base and the first expansion so much of. I'm interested. The new rule that they added for the solar advancement is different, but all in all, it's a good expansion to a game that they are literally trolling out very, very small expansions to get the maximum money. So I appreciate your commerce sense. Stronghold way to do it. You could have had the Hellas and Elysium expansion packaged with your promos, packaged with this expansion as well, and release them all at once. But why do that when you can sell them as 5 different items?
They are a company. They are a company trying to make profit.
Oh, I respect it. I respect it to no end in our finance.
So I think the next logical step will be during the game you can actually spend money to the company to do better in the game itself.
Yeah.
So oh, I really want to finish building this. If I don't have enough money, I'll just buy this add-on right here.
Yeah, but
I just had a nightmare of like a game where you can PayPal a company in the middle of the game and get an advantage in the current game you're playing.
That's what's happening in Terraforming Mars next. Get ready.
But I'm glad all the people who, Broken Token, the people who make organizers, I forget the other company, I really wanted the Meeple Source, I believe. I'm glad they all have excellent organizers and excellent peripherals and some new ones coming out.
9. I feel bad because they make the Argent insert, but
yeah,
something 9 gaming, I don't know.
It's fine.
We'll look it up later.
All right, my number 3 is Azul. So Azul is a tile game, essentially. It's sort of tile drafting in some way. It's a pretty clever idea. So the tiles are, first of all, super beautiful. They're these thick glass tiles. And the game itself is not very complicated. Just pick tiles and then some go in the middle, and then you're trying to fill up rows to make it fill up your other rows. So I don't have a good description of it. It's just a fun game. It's simple, it's fast, and it works. So that's my number 3.
Yeah, right. I never got a chance to play this game because it was always full. So.
I think it's a good game. Like if you're gonna put it in the category of like Majesty and Splendor, Azul is way better than Splendor. But it was great. I might buy it, but I probably won't. But it's a very pretty game and solid mechanically. Go 7 Gaming, by the way, is the other board game insert maker.
Yeah,
want to make sure to give him a shout out.
Sponsorship one day, maybe.
All right, so Indian Summer actually made my best list because I really like Tetris, and that's all this is. It's a Tetris board game. But I like it better than Cottage Garden because I feel like Cottage Garden adds some things that are just like extraneous. Like we don't need this fancy scoring. We don't need the weird way the wheelbarrow moves around and all that. Like, Indian Summer kind of strips all that away, and it's basically like, we're playing Tetris. Whoever completes their board first wins. That's it.
You don't like the flavor of Cottage Garden and the interesting mechanics?
Indian Summer adds 4 power-ups, and you can get these power-ups and use them, and that's, to me, that's more interesting than the flavor that Cottage Garden adds to
I like
Tetris.
my cats, Trey. Anyways, go ahead, Ben.
There's like squirrels in Indian Summer.
You know, I
mean,
feel
there are
like
no cats,
we're in
but
such
squirrels
different
are cool
positions
too.
on this. We'll never.
It's
There's
fine.
no point arguing about it.
It's fine.
Oh, but
Alright,
then
Number 3 favorite was Kitchen Rush. I'm a sucker for a novel mechanic, and it was really fun having timed workers and having a real-time aspect. And we got crushed at it, and the Eurogamers in the group did not like it at all, but I thought it was really fun. It was probably more fun than any other physical game that I've played of that type.
Yeah, I'll totally play it. It looks interesting. I'd give it a shot. Alright, Charles, number 2.
my number 2 game was another game I bought, Pyramid Poker.
Wow, I heard bad things about that game. Now I have to
Yeah.
try it just to see if it's actually bad.
So, it's poker. It's heads-up poker, 2-player.
It's 2-player. That's the problem with it.
Yeah, it has some other rules, but don't bother with them. It has some legacy story rules. Don't bother with them. If you want to play look, there's a distinct shortage of 5 to 10 minute fillers that are good, that can be played with 2 players while you're getting something else done, that everyone can get the rules to and know how to play in 1 minute or less. And that is Pyramid Poker.
King Domino, Patchwork. That's all you need.
Well, that's not 10 minutes.
That's not 10 minutes.
I can play those games in 10 minutes.
No. After you played them a few times. People can play Pyramid Poker in 10 minutes the first time they play.
Yeah, okay.
And it gets shorter from there on.
That's fair enough.
The best part about it is I played it once, and then I played it 2 or 3, 4 more times after that on the same play. And other people I've introduced it to have done the same thing. So it's a replayable 5 to 10 minute filler game. And, it's very simple. You stack blocks up to the top, and then you pull the blocks down. And while you're pulling them down, you make 3 poker hands, and you compare your hand 1 versus their hand 1 down to hand 3, and best 2 out of 3 wins the game. Done.
Yeah, essentially, it's a simpler version of Battle Line, or Shoten Toten, I suppose.
I do like Battle Line.
So yeah, it's just a much faster, lighter version of that. I think it's fine. I mean, there's nothing special there, but it works.
Right. I mean, like I said, it's the category, the
Yes, that's true.
scarcity of this category puts that number 2 for me.
Alright, Ben?
My number 2 is Alien Artifacts. So Alien Artifacts is a real fast-moving card game. It took us, I think, 30 minutes to play. The guy was demoing it to me. We just played the whole game. And it's a lot like Race for the Galaxy in its feel. There's about 3 different strategies you can pursue. There's the red cards, the blue cards, and the green cards. And they'll just do different things. So the green cards make doing actions cheaper, and the red cards let you attack these planets, which can give you these fancy alien artifact cards. And the blue cards are like in-game scoring things. So the game itself is not very complicated, but for a game with that many cards, it's surprisingly not random, because although there's a lot of cards in it, there's a lot of duplication of the types of cards that there are. And, I mean, it just kind of works. Like, you can sort of expect what you're going to get. The sort of interesting thing about the game that makes it somewhat different from Race is there's a lot of probability management in it. So, like, a lot of the ways that you score the red cards and the blue cards are you draw cards from the deck, and you might or might not score based on that. So I guess I could see that kind of being a downside in some way, that you're like, oh, I can't do this. But you do it a sufficient number of times that you're sort of rolling the dice and seeing what you get. I think it really works well.
Yeah, I'll try it out. I mean, I'm kind of worried. I was excited about it, but then a lot of reviews came out that were not very positive. You watch the Dice Tower review, they're like struggling to find good things to say, because they were that was their #1 anticipated game from Essen. And then when they actually played it, they gave it a positive review, but like it seemed like they were struggling to find things they liked about it, and I was like, whoa, that's a letdown.
I think it really works as a fast, especially as a 2-player game. I'd say the one downside is the variable player powers really incentivize you to do certain strategies over another, because they'll let you score more for other things. But other than that, I thought it was really good.
Okay, my number 2 is Heaven and Ale. This is basically if you've ever played, what is that game? The Scottish game? Glenmore. If you played Glenmore, or there was another game that uses a similar mechanic, Agizia, where like, it's kind of a mix between those two, because there's a track, and you can never go backwards on the track. Unlike Glenmore, though, it's not always who's in the back's turn, but like Glenmore, if you complete your circuit around the track, whoever's still left on the track can just like take their slow time and just get whatever's left. You're basically taking tiles and putting them in a land in front of you. You have a personal player board, and the land you can score you points or improve your beer, and you're trying to like basically brew this awesome beer by getting all these different ingredients. And it's a really tight game. Like it's one of those games like you make one mistake and you've probably lost, maybe 2 mistakes. But it's a very short game. It took us like less than an hour to play, 2 players. So I think the game length is short enough that it can afford to be that tight. Whereas like if it was a longer game and if you make one mistake, you're out of contention, then that would be unacceptable. But the game's short enough, and I think it has some really cool mechanics. You can, besides just getting your bonuses and points, you're also fighting over scoring because the scoring is limited. So like sometimes people will jump ahead just to make sure they will get a chance to even score anything, and they'll forego a bunch of like other bonuses they could have gotten.
So a beer game with a lot of hops.
How long were you holding that? I felt like you were holding it
about 2 minutes.
Yeah,
I was like, you said, about 2 minutes. I was waiting for my moment.
But yeah, Heaven and Ale, check it out. I'm probably not going to get it just because kind of the same problem with Nori. I feel like it doesn't have a lot of replayability. It's going to be a very similar game each time. Just the tiles will come out differently. But I thought it was a really cool game and definitely one you should check out. Ian?
My number 2 is actually Majesty.
Oh my god.
Yeah, agree to disagree.
I mean, I like it. I'm a sucker for a novel system. That's not really a truly novel system, but somebody compared it to Splendor earlier. I don't entirely.
It is better than Splendor.
I don't entirely agree with that, but my problem with Splendor and games like that is it feels really algorithmic or like solved. Like I feel like if I had just a table of all the values, I could just write a little script that would say it would be best to strategic to buy this card. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of conceit or contention in it aside from like, oh, someone took the thing I wanted to take, now I have to recompute everything. It just feels very computational, whereas this feels more loosey-goosey, fun, simultaneous yelling at your friends kind of thing. The fact that it is highly variable is part of its charm to me. As long as people can manage to play it in 10 minutes and not 30 minutes, it's great.
Yeah. Well, if you want a drafting game that's actually good, Azul is good and a drafting game. Did you play Azul?
No.
Oh, okay.
Let's also say this, all right? So we're having a bit between the Eurogamer and the Ameritrash, and Ian has started in the Eurogame bosom, but he is loving this Ameritrash as it goes
man,
on.
don't go to the dark
There's nothing
side.
wrong with that.
Oh, there's something wrong with
There
that.
is nothing wrong with that.
Deeply wrong.
I think there are very good Ameritrash games that are out there, and they're not trash. They're American design games, and I like them quite a bit. It's just a different in taste, with how much conflict you want to manage in the game. So yes, if you do like conflict in your games and player interaction, Majesty's an excellent game.
But it is decidedly a Euro game that has attacks, which is why I don't like it. Like I like Ameritrash games and I like Euro games, but I don't like when the two mix. I don't like a game that's straight up a Euro, which Majesty is. It's just a card drafting game. But then like there's these crazy take that elements. That's not fun.
I love a hybrid. I bought Scythe.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, hybrids are different, but anyway, I digress. Charles,
Number one.
Number one game, Pulsar 2849 from CGE and designer Vladimir Suchi, the person who made, I believe, sorry for butchering your name if I did, but the
Guaranteed.
designer of Last Will and its expansion.
Yeah.
And
I like Last Will.
and the CGE, the entire group, of course, they have the designer of Alchemist, and Vlada is always there helping out as well. Pulsar 2849 is a dice selection game with a number of variable powers and technologies and things that you're trying to do. Mostly you are exploring the galaxy and trying to obtain points by doing so. In addition, building up a large technology tree that opens up as the game progresses. The general mechanic is sort of very similar to Lagrange. The big thing in that game is it's an 8-round game. You have 16 actions, and you have a chance to get a maximum of 1 extra action per round, and getting those extra actions is like really where the crux of the gameplay is.
Good.
I mean, there really is nothing else to. It's a very highly replayable game. It has 2 sides of everything. It has every single player board has variable powers, and there's 2 sides of those. I think it's fun to play. I enjoyed it quite a bit. The technologies are all 2-sided as well, and they mix and match of different 4s. I mean, it's just, you know, it's when you come to cons like this, you come and you're trying to find a home run game, and I didn't feel like this con had a home run game, but this game was definitely like above average and playable, and I understand why it is CGE's premier game of the year, and it's like a triple to me. So
it's pretty good. I like it.
Yeah, I like it.
I think Pulsar is a really good game. To me, it kind of felt like a Stefan Feld game in space in some way. It's like there's dice and there's lots of things that you could do with it. Yeah, I think the only issue I have with it is usually when I play Euro games, I want to try and do everything, but I think it's a game that rewards specialization. Yeah. But yeah, it's a good game. My number 1 is Reworld, which is a hard word to say. Reworld is a real simple game. It's essentially stack drafting. So the game is in 2 parts. In the first part, you draft cards and then put them into 6 different stacks, based on the way you acquire the cards. And then the second part of the game, you take cards off of that. So you take the cards in the top and put them onto your tableau, and then score points based on that. It's really simple, but I think it works really interestingly, and I don't know, for whatever reason, it just really works. I like it. Reworld.
Yeah, it was a simple game. I got a chance to play it, and I liked it as well. Probably won't purchase it, but I would be happy to play it again. It was an interesting take. It is one of those games that has 2 distinct phases. Think of like For Sale, and the 2 phases are really not related at all, which was interesting. So I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I also play Reworld, you know, it's in my rest game. The one thing I will say about the game is I can see that the more you play it, the more you understand it, and it really does have a lot of stuff you have to build on. The first time you play it, you might get it, you might win, but probably not, especially if you're playing someone who's played it like 3 or 4 times, and I feel like it builds. The only thing I disliked about it was I don't think there's a ton of things to score for every game. I believe 10, and that never changes, correct?
Yeah, I think it's always the same, but I mean,
so
there's a lot of ways you can take it.
Yeah, I worry about the ultimate replayability of the game.
Yeah, I think so too. That's probably why I didn't purchase it, but yeah.
Alright, my number 1 is, of course, Harvest by TMG. Just kidding. But, you know, I had to get that self-promotion in. But yeah, actually, at this con was the first time I actually saw and touched the production copy, because they didn't, for whatever reason, they hadn't shipped me my copies yet. So it was really cool to, like, see my game and actually play it way after tons of people, including 200 people that bought it in Germany, got a chance to play it. But yeah, TMG did an amazing job on their production, as they always do. So great job, TMG. My actual number 1 game is Insider, which is not really a new game. It came out in Japan years ago, but I just happened to be wandering through the BGG store and I saw it, and I knew the concept of it, which is basically 20 questions with a social deduction element. I'm like, okay, I don't really know how that's going to work, but it seems interesting. So I picked up a copy, $20 for some cards and a timer. So, you know, way overpriced, but, you know, whatever, it's an import game, so you pay a premium. And it was a great decision. It's the only game I purchased at BGG, and I got to play it there at 4 a.m. for the first time, because I got invited to, they were playing, like, after-hour gaming with some of the staff from BGG, and some of the publishers were up there, and, like, one of the staffers from BGG saw me in the hall and, like, invited me up, and we got up there, and unfortunately they were just finishing the party games they had been playing, and I was like, well, they were kind of just breaking up, and some of them were like, oh, let's just go to bed, and I just got there, and I wanted to play something, so I was like, hey, well, I have Insider, and they jumped on that, and some of them had played it, so they taught it, and it was an absolute blast. Like, it is a very, very interesting game, especially to play, you know, at 4 a.m. with people you barely know. So it was really cool. I do think it has some problems, like, in the larger player counts. I think it's impossible to find the Insider, because the Insider could literally just say nothing, and you will never know that it's them. So I think it has problems at higher player counts, but overall I think it's a really cool concept.
Well, I played Insider with the designer of Argent the Consortium, the designer of Spirit Island, and the designer of Kodama at the same time.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So, it was very fun to play with 3 game designers.
Oh, wait, name drop.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Daniel Daniel Solis, Trey Chambers, obviously, and Eric
Royce.
So yeah, so I had a very good, designers getting into the game, and a lot of metagaming, a lot of breakdown, a lot of people who are very good at games and understand them and can make them, and I thought it was excellent as well. So I would recommend it to anyone. I believe there's some very significant werewolves controversy with this game.
Yeah, we're not going to touch on this in this episode, but we are going to do an episode.
This is going to be our next episode. So we're going to have a feature on
werewolves is on my list.
But yeah, Inside is a great game.
My favorite was Riverboat. That was shown off in the Hot Games live section. That's where I got a chance to play it. I liked it so much that I pre-ordered it on Cool Stuff. So whenever that gets around, that'll be great. It feels really tight. I'm a sucker for mechanics, like I said, and it has a couple of them in there. One of my favorite is the way that it changes up the turn order system, because you're drafting which phase you're going to go first in, and you get a bonus for. I feel like there's a lot of mitigation of the randomness. It has a randomness factor, a drafting factor. I definitely want to play it more with my friends. I can't wait for it to come out. I went in to go see if they had any on, was it Sunday or something? They're like, we sold out Thursday morning. We don't have any more of these. So definitely can't wait for that.
All right, very good. Let's
let's not. I wanted to go on and talk about our new games, but I feel like we need more time. So let's, instead of running through all the new games, let's go ahead and do another episode of this.
No, let's not. We're not gonna do the new games, but we are gonna go. Let's just go through our BGG. So don't talk about like the recent plays, but like no more than 30 seconds per game. And let's just run through them.
Oh man.
I mean, you can save some to the next episode if you want, but.
What is it? Oh yes. I reserve my time.
All right. Charles will be back next episode and talk about tons of other games.
I claim my time, yes. I reclaim my time.
All right. I'm going to power through this because I don't know when I'm going to be back.
Yeah.
These guys.
He might not be on the next episode. We'll see how I feel about him.
So I'm just going to separate into 3 categories. First is games I played at BGG.con. So first one was called Entropy. It's a quick card game. Nothing to write home about. All right, next one was called Who Should We Eat? It's a game of being a cannibal, and you vote people off to die. Boring. All right, next game is called the Castles of Burgundy dice game. It feels like Castles of Burgundy, except it's a dice game, faster. If you like Castles of Burgundy and you don't want to spend time
You almost won a copy for having the high score. Continue.
Except we weren't that good. Next game was Montana, which was a race game. It was okay. It was sort of a kind of thing. It was the only game I've ever seen as a Euro game that had a spinner in it. You spin to get workers, which is kind of weird, but it was fine. I feel like race games.
Designer of Istanbul, so
nothing wrong with it. All right, next game is called Dreams. So this game is kind of like a cross between a fake artist goes to New York and Dixit and the concept of constellations. So
that sounds good.
So one person has there's a bunch of Dixit type pictures, and most of the people know what it is, and one person's an imposter. And what the people who know it is, they have little gems and they put them on this board, and based on that they're supposed to communicate who knows and who doesn't know. Honestly, fake artist goes to New York just does it better. It's just not, this doesn't work. Alright, next game is called Fishy Floopin' Frikadellen. It is a Friedman Freeze mega game. It plays from 2 to 15 players, till a normal player count. We play with, 11 or 12. It's real silly. It's like a pick up and deliver game where you play across multiple boards. So on one board I'll play, and once I get the what they call the fetish, the theme is really weird, on this board, and then I walk over to the other board, and then I have to do the fetish on that board, and then I walk over to the other board, and there's different economies and different boards.
It's really cool idea. A board game or a party you got invited to?
No, it was definitely a board game. In fact, 3 board games combined into one. It seemed like to me, but it's fine. The game is kind of weird because there's definitely not some balance issues, but I mean, it was definitely an experience that I recommend trying. All right, next one's called Palace of Mad King Ludwig, not to be confused with Castles of Mad King Ludwig. It's like Suburbia, or Castles, except you build it on a common board instead of your own board. Also, there's a lot of swans in that game, which is kind of weird. It's like a huge currency in the game, different colored swans. It wasn't bad, it was fine. Alright, so the next one is Harvest. I'm not going to talk about that. No, I'm just kidding. It's a fine game. I'm sure Trey will talk about it for the next 30 or 40 games.
Sure.
So I won't say anything else about that. We tried the Spirit Island expansion to just having an archipelago and playing with 5 players. It was good. I'll talk about that. And then we play a game called Twilight of the Gods, which is like a Magic clone, except there's a bunch of weird mechanisms in it. Like, to get mana or currency, you have to trade with people, which is weird. I don't know. The people running it were very cocky, and they're like, "Oh, this is way different than Magic." I'm like, "It's kind of similar to Magic, but it's fine." All right, so those are the games I played. Am I going fast enough? Should I go faster?
No, you're good.
Okay, next game.
Faster.
The demos I did. Chimera Station, really cool idea. Worker placement game where the workers have variable powers. I'm sure you don't know anything about that. But it's cool because they're like plastic pieces. You can take them apart and add new pieces to them.
He doesn't know anything about that either. Continue.
All right. Next game, Googly Eyes. It was fun. We only played demo of it. Googly Eyes. It's a Pictionary with wacky glasses. So your picture is supposed to look weird. It was dumb. All right. Next game is called S Word Happens.
There you go.
The actual S word. It's like Timeline, but it's arbitrary things. So it's like, here's a bunch of bad things that could happen to you, and a number that represents how bad they are. I'm going to read this thing to you. Tell me where it goes in your thing.
Also, that's a plagiarizing a card game that has existed for a really long time.
Well, that's Pressman for you.
Martin Wallace game or something.
All right, next game is called Wordsy. Here's what Wordsy is. Here's 8 letters. Think of words that have these 8 letters. Okay, that's the game. Next game is called Dragon Keepers. This game is not a game. It's supposed to be on Kickstarter next year. It's a semi-co-op game for kids, I guess, and like you roll dice and you're supposed to like play cards, action selection, but the game does not incentivize you to do anything except one thing in the game, and there's a whole bunch of other things in the game that there's no reason to do.
In case you haven't noticed by now, Ben will sometimes see a game that looks so terrible that he wants to hate it, and so he goes and tries it to confirm his hate.
Actually,
assessment.
The guy who did the demo was really nice, and I criticized the game to him, and maybe he'll take some feedback and fix it. I don't know. So, you know, I won't prejudge. This game is called Nuzfjord.
Newsfjord.
Yeah, sure.
Newsfjord.
It's a Uwe Rosenberg game. It's about fish and wood and gold, and that's what you do for the whole game. You get some fish, you get some wood, you get some gold. It's boring. All right. Next
People
game.
kept saying this game was like Glass Road. It's from the same artist. It plays nothing like Glass Road.
I don't like Glass Road either, and it's also boring. All right. Next game is called Viral. It's an area control game.
I love Glass Road.
Actually, kind of clever. So it's you choose a zone and you choose an action to do in that zone, and then sort of do that simultaneously. And then whenever you are too successful, when you score points, the game will start removing your pieces. It works. It's fine. Next game is called Battle for Rokugan. It's an area dominance game in the Legend of Five Rings universe. It's nothing special. It's like, for some reason it has a runaway layer problem, because when you control zones, you get special cards from those zones that give you more stuff. I don't know why they put it in the game. Best part about it is that there's crabs. Alright, next game is called Tabletop Golf Mars Open. It's a flicking game. You flick a piece of paper into a hole. Yep.
But you use the box as terrain. So you get to use the entire thing.
Yes, you're flicking paper into a hole.
Yeah,
There's at least
you do.
3 words from that title that can be eliminated.
Yes.
Yes, it's Mars themed apparently. Who knew?
No.
Alright, next game is called Werewords, which I guess we referenced somewhat. It's the same thing Insiders, as far as I can tell.
With rolls, special rolls.
It's 20 questions with a hidden identities game. It was fun. Alright, last but not least, 2 more, and we're done.
I claim my time.
No, this time is mine. I was just taught these games, I didn't play them. Merlin, Stefan Feld game, point salad, looks fun. New York Slice, I divide, you choose, always a good mechanism. I would like to try it at some point.
That's just a re-implementation of the Pie game.
Yeah.
It's really old, but it's
old. Yeah,
I have played
old
that Pie game and it's pretty good.
Alright, it seems good. So I have other games that I've played since the con, but I will save my time.
We'll have you back on. That was actually pretty funny, somewhat. All right, my new games. I played the Spirit Island expansion 3 times at the con. The unreleased expansion. I was actually
coughing, trying to get that rulebook credit, huh?
Yeah. Well, exactly. I actually got to try a spirit that had never been played, even by the designer. It was the first play for that spirit, so that was really fun. The expansion, I'm sure, is going to be awesome. They're kickstarting it, and it'll do gangbusters because Spirit Island is very popular, rightfully so. Exodus Fleet, which is another game by TMG. I thought it was good. It was solid mechanically. It just didn't knock my socks off, which is why I didn't make my top 3, but it was pretty good. We played with the designer. He seemed like a cool guy.
I was going to spend a whole lot of time talking about that game. I wrote a lot about it.
Well,
but I'm not going to say it now. Because I claim my time. Continue.
Charles will reclaim his time in the next episode.
I claim my time, yeah.
All right, The Emperor's Choice, which was a really cool, was it a Japanese game?
Japanese, yeah.
Yeah, it was a really, really interesting auction game that Ben taught me. And how did you know that game?
David Quay.
Oh, yeah. So, but yeah, it was a really interesting game. I hope it gets a North American release because it is certainly a worthwhile game, and I might pick it up eventually if it ever makes its way here. Yeah. A Game of Thrones Catan, much better than regular Catan. It has like this whole component where the wildlings come and invade, and they can take over your territory, and so you're playing Catan, but you're also like battling them back.
Actually, you're playing Star Trek Catan because it has the leader.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's Star Trek Catan
Yes.
with an added wall defense component to it.
Exactly. It has that same Star Trek Catan, and which I think is good. The only problem with it is like there's no iconography, so all the cards, and I think Star Trek Catan has the same problem. All the cards are just like blocks of text, and so the first time you play that game, it's going to be problematic because everyone's going to be like, okay, let me lift up 10 cards as I change my roll and read them all, and then process that, and then choose my roll. And then they probably have to do the same thing on the next because they haven't memorized what each of these 10 cards do. And so like it really bogs the game down when people are switching roles.
You forgot one more problem with the game.
What is it?
$89.99 MSRP.
Ooh. But
$68 on cool stuff.
But the components are really awesome. So I think you're getting your money's worth. But you know, if you have that kind of money to spend on Catan.
Yeah, Catan no less.
But yeah, I really enjoyed the play. I just I did feel like it bogged down. So I think it's a game that will get better with plays. Like as you memorize those cards and as your opponents memorize them as well, it'll get a lot snappier. And then the last one I played was Dice Forge, which came out like 6 months ago. It kind of was like a big thing when it came out, and then hardly anyone talks about it. And I know exactly why, because the mechanic is super interesting and awesome. It takes the dice customization mechanic from Rattlebones and makes it way more interesting.
Rattlebones.
And also more practical. You don't have to have a tool to pop it out. You actually just can take the pieces of the die off and pop new ones in. So it's way more practical. I think it's a much better game than Rattlebones. However,
Rattlebones is not a game.
Yeah.
It's a mechanic.
Rattlebones is not a game. Dice Forge is barely a game. It's literally like the Dominion of dice customization games. It's basically just you can roll a die, and the die is either going to give you currency A, currency B, or victory points, and that's it. Like I would really love to have this dice customization mechanic used in a much meatier game that does more than just you get currency A or you get currency B or you get victory points. Like there has to be more to it than that, and I hope some designer makes that happen
One day.
Pass.
All right, Ian also passes. So we're gonna wrap it up. Thanks for joining us for our BGG Con episode. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe. We're on YouTube and Twitter at Eternally Bored. No underscore, and it's bored as in board games, not bored as in I'm bored listening to this podcast.
We're on board playing all this crappy game.
I'm bored playing Photosynthesis.
I reclaim my joking, Tom. Go.
All right, and our website is www.eternallybored.com. Until next time, we're eternally bored,
so you don't have to be.
Look, they learned the line.
Yep, exactly. You got it.